Alright, so in this tutorial we're going to talk a little bit about how to construct a human head. Depending on what book you read or what artist you follow or something like that, there's going to be two schools of thought of how they approach it. Neither of them are wrong. The way I approach it is, at least is the way I was taught, and that is the human head is essentially an egg shape with the point of the egg facing downward. The point of the egg is what forms the chin, and you can kind of see that sort of concept in just about any human head that you see in comics. But generally speaking, also the way I was taught was that you kind of start off with a circle. And when you start off with a circle, you'll add the chin in a minute to create the upside down egg shape. You have to bisect your circle into kind of equal pie parts. This bisection here is where a lot of the action occurs at. It's where the eyes occur at, and then you use this center point here where the lines cross. You're going to use that as distance markers, like landmarks, facial landmarks of where other things line up at. So our eyes are typically 5 eyes wide, and this guideline going across is going to evenly divide the eye from the top and the bottom. So if I say there's an eye here, then the even amount of it is going to be at the bottom too. And that eye is about, the head is about, give or take 5 eyes wide. So I'll draw my little football shape for my eye here, and a little football shape for the eye evenly at top and bottom. When I say evenly, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go in there with like a ruler or anything like that. You can kind of just judge it by sight. And there's my left eye. So we'll go ahead and erase this part. This curvedness of the eye is the eyelid. So it's okay for it to come over a little bit, because the eyeball itself is round, and so you can extend your eyelid, the upper eyelid, over it and have it tuck in so that you can put in like your tear ducts at the bottom of your eye. And then, as I've said with other tutorials, once you know these rules, that's what allows you to bend and break the rules. You can draw pointy chins, bigger eyes, that kind of stuff, but you still got to have some sort of proportions so that you can draw those faces consistently each and every time. The eyeball isn't going to rest directly in the center like this. That means the eyelid is pulled up completely. The upper eyelid is pulled back completely, meaning shock, surprised, horror, that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, you would draw the eyeball, rather, the eyeball is in there already. What we're drawing now is the pupil, or rather, I'm sorry, the iris. And then the pupil sits right above that line, right on top of it. So, there's my eyes. So, this, where the lines intersect at, like other anatomy, you're just looking for anatomical landmarks. So, about halfway from here, the halfway point from here, this X to the here, is where my nose is going to fall at. So, again, just kind of visually guessing it, and right about there is where my nose will go. I'll go a little bit lower than that line to create my nostrils. Just going to curve out a little bit. Halfway point from here to here is where the top of the nose is going to go at. Once I have my eyes drawn, if I draw guidelines from the inside of the eye, Just kind of loosely straight. That's going to tell me where my nostrils line up at. Curve in. There's my nostrils. And then they'll, of course, go up and they curve in towards the nose. And this is where your cheek muscle, or rather the nose and the cheek muscle, connect to pull the nostril up to help make expressions. And then let's go ahead and draw the chin at this point. Chin comes from the side where your eye is, so the side of your circle, and you want to keep this line here kind of going down so that you can put it even. It should be about half the circle's distance. If you're drawing an anime or manga type character, it's going to round out or come to a point. If you're drawing more of a human shape, then it's going to come down to indicate the jaw and then cut in. Right about there. That's my jawline, and then it comes in. And instead of having it at a point, I'm going to square it off for that kind of standard sort of hero's jaw. And there's my jawline. From the base of the nose to the tip of the chin, whether it's pointy or not, and you can see where your circle is right here, that's where your mouth is going to go. And then once you draw on your mouth, from the mouth halfway down, that's where the bottom of the lip is going to go. It starts kind of forming out to the divot of the chin. And we could probably drop the nose a little lower if we wanted. The mouth connects if I start lining up the eye, just like dividing the eye right in half, evenly in half. That's going to tell me where the curves of my top lip is going to go. And these the cheek muscles pull that mouth up. So sometimes you'll see, we can see that. I'm just kind of looking at what I have on one side and making sure that I balance it out on the other side so that I have symmetry, a little symmetry at least. Let's go back up to the eyes. The eyebrows are always thick towards the base of the nose and then thin as they go out towards the edge of the eye, towards the ear. So I'll draw it thick and thin. Thin, thick. Shade it in there. So same kind of concept. Thick, thin. Thick, thin. And I usually kind of draw a little bit based off of the expression. I'll draw some of the muscles in for the eyebrows that pull up. I might also draw, since he's kind of got this kind of angry look, I'll draw a little bit of the eyelid going down, upper eyelid going down to help with that expression. And I might draw in a little bit, not much because I don't want to age him. The more lines you put in to him, the more he's going to look like he's aged. Alright. Then let's talk about our ears. The ears, the base of the ears should be about even with the nose. And we're going to bring the nose down just a little bit. facial features should be, at least when you're trying to draw it kind of normal looking, a little closer than that. So ears, base of the ears should be with even with the bottom of the nose, and they curve into the head. So almost like if you draw a guideline going across, there's the base of my ears. Top of the ears should go just, right about in between your eyelid and your eyebrow, so right about here, and they go out. So we'll start it out. Draw me a little cylinder shape. Bring it down and curve it into the head. Then I'm going to draw it out. Draw me my little cylinder shape. Bring it down, curve it into the head. From the top here, I'm going to start drawing the inside of my ear. Curves towards the head. About halfway to it is where you start getting the ear kind of curving in. It folds over itself, so, and then curves back out. So you kind of see where that starts a little bit below that, curves out, and comes back in. In some drawings, I see artists, they try to draw the inside of the ear canal, and you can't really see it from the front view like we have here. But you still do see the ear start to kind of fold onto itself. So it's usually just a line that comes from the curve of the ear here, and then about halfway through that, another line that comes down. And then there's my ears. Jaw lines, again with my circle going on here, my jaw is going to come in. But it should be just a little bit above that circle guide, and drops down a little bit because you want to line it up with the jaw here to the bottom of the chin. And there we go. And then the hair. The hair sits on top of the head and grows from the scalp. So when you're drawing, your hairlines, again, kind of depends on the hairstyle, but you want to draw about half of it on top of it, above your egg shape. We're just going to give them kind of a standard, like, superhero sort of part. So, kind of like this. And I'm going to tuck it a little bit behind the ear. And it's going to go into itself, but then I'm going to tuck it over here. Here's following on to itself. Like so. And then drawing it on top, if this is where the hair is parted at, and I know that the hair grows from the scalp over it, then I'll start from here, and I'll just give him that kind of heroic sort of curl. And same from here, it's growing from the head, so the scalp away. So I'll draw these curved lines, and then I'll do this little divot where it starts to give him his sideburns. And then the contours from the part. And I can go ahead and start erasing some of these guidelines. But there we go. And then last but not least, the neck. When drawing the neck, and as you'll hear me say all the time, knowing the rules is what allows us to bend and break the rules and create the really exaggerated designs that we see or that we want to draw ourselves. But the neck, at least when I draw the neck, kind of depends on how muscular the character is going to be. You can draw it straight from the jawline. So I'm drawing it literally straight down. There's my neck muscle. I like to draw the jaw a little bit bigger, or the neck in a little bit more, so that doesn't look like it's all kind of gets lost in there. So I tend to draw the corners of my jawline a little out, and the neck muscle in, and then the neck muscle goes down, and then starts to kind of curve into the trapezius. All right, and there is a human head for us. Again, understanding your basic kind of landmarks. So that you know where to line things up proportionately at. It really is all about understanding those kind of landmarks, that you start training your muscle memory to remember these things. And adding a little shadow in here. Got my guideline in there, and that's actually more of a muscle, kind of like that. We can erase a little bit of the bridge of the nose, doesn't need to be that much. And we'll drop the top of the nose to about here. Not really draw it all the way in. Alright. So, knowing the anatomical landmarks helps with proportions as you're starting out. And once you have drawn them enough times, then that's where the muscle memory starts kind of kicking in at, that you can wind up leapfrogging some of the steps because you're used to drawing them. And then as you're used to drawing them, and you're leapfrogging steps, then you can start playing around with your style, drawing it the way you want to draw it, in terms of like if you want them to have pointy chins or square head. But even if I draw it, a character, and I want him to have this long kind of cylinder sort of shape of a head, I still got to understand some anatomical landmarks. So I'll still bisect him evenly, and I decide how high up I want his eyes. So I want his eyes up here, and not necessarily rounded like football shapes. Maybe I want them to be little bitty dots. I'm still going to want it to be even across from one another. Maybe his nose is about here and it's more square. And then from here to here maybe is his mouth, and jaw comes in with those nostrils. Put a little divot for his chin there, rounding him off just a little bit. Ears, even if I want them, say, pointy ears. See the ear canal from the front. So the jaw is still going to pull up the sides of the lips. Halfway down through here is where I'd put his bottom lip at. And eyebrows. And I don't know, maybe he's got a skinny neck. But regardless, it's still understanding those anatomical landmarks, so that you can still keep, even if it's a different, an exaggerated sort of shape, you're still following the same kind of proportions, that the rules of proportion, if you want to call them that. So that your characters can still, not only so you can draw it the same way each